Welcome everybody to another edition of the Pick a Pop LP show, My Top 12. Our guest this week is a lady who once or twice has been reported as having said she doesn't really care too much about pop music. I think her selection for the show is going to disprove all that. We shall see. Welcome to the programme, Cass Elliott.
I don't think I really said I don't care too much. I just said I'm not really up on it.
Oh, right,
You know,
fine.
I'm not really up on the latest thing that's happening with Slade or Kiss or, you know, any of those groups.
That's a different explanation. What are you going to put as the first track on this album?
Well, I wrote them down, but of course they're not in order. But one of the songs that is on the list is the Rolling Stones' Honky Tonk Women.
A great many American guests on this show have chosen Stones records, Cass, and in many cases they've said things like the greatest rock band in the world and so on. Do you feel that they make a contribution that is equal to anything that the Americans have done?
Oh, well, I wouldn't purport to, set myself up as that kind of judge. I think the Stones are a great rock band.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the moment that one of their good records starts, you start to tap your foot, and that's really the judge of what rock and roll is.
Right.
They are not my favorite rock group, however. I mean, my favorite rock group consistently through the years has been The Who, because they totally delight me, surprise me, shock me. All the experiences that can be wrapped up. But when I was asked to make up this list of 12 songs, I couldn't really think of a Who single that knocked me out. I mean, Miles and Miles didn't really knock me out. What was it? The Magic Bus didn't really knock me out. Tommy knocked me out, but you're not going to sit here and play a whole album of Tommy. Right. So, I left them off my list because I was thinking in terms of singles, But consistently, The Who really do it to me better than I think anybody.
You were telling me earlier of this experience you had of sitting in the recording studio with the Stones. I think we should pass that story on.
Well, this was many, many years ago, right after they had recorded Ruby Tuesday, and Ruby Tuesday had come out as a single. And I was here, and I've known Jimmy Miller for a couple of years, and we went over to Olympic, and the Stones were recording, and Brian Jones was still alive at the time. And they started to play Ruby Tuesday. And then Brian came into the studio after about 2 hours after they had played it, and Nicky Hopkins went in and started to play the piano. And they played Ruby Tuesday for about 4.5 hours. And Keith Richard played some of the best guitar I've ever heard. I mean, they just played it over and over, and Mick sang his brains out. It was just an incredible experience just to be able to be there and to hear it.
Right.
You know, so I mean, they're definitely rock and roll. There's no question about
Certainly.
it. And I love rock and roll. I just can't sing it, but I appreciate it.
Right. Let's have your next choice. What's it going to be?
This is one of my very favorite songs. I think it's got such a great attitude. This Drive My Car from the Beatles' Rubber Soul album.
Asked a girl what she wanted to be. She said, baby, can't you see? I want to be famous, a star of the screen, but you can do something in between. Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star. Baby, you can drive my car, and baby, I love you. I told that girl that my prospects were good, and she said, baby, it's understood. Working for peanuts is all very fine, but I can show you a better time. Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star. Baby, you can drive my car, and baby, I love you. Beep, 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 yeah. Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star. Baby, you can drive my car, and baby, I love you. I told that girl I could start right away. She said, listen, babe, I got something to say. I got no car and it's breaking my heart, but I found a driver and that's a start. Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star. Baby, you can drive my car, and baby, I love you. Beep, 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 yeah. Beep, 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 yeah. Beep, 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 yeah. Beep, 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 yeah.
The Beatles, of
I
course.
love that
Right,
song.
great.
You know, that song didn't come out on the American version of Rubber Soul.
No?
Not for... Well, not until after the Beatles actually disbanded did they, when they started to issue everything,
Yeah.
did that song come out, because you couldn't get it in the States, and I had gotten my copy here, and I just loved it. I thought it such a great... And being a lady in show business, I just loved that song. Just loved it to pieces.
You surprise me a little. You say that you love rock and roll. You can't sing it. I mean, surely you have performed on rock numbers.
Well, the only real rock and roll numbers I've ever sung were things like Dancing in the Streets, which I took literally notes from Martha and the Vandellas, Martha Reeves.
Yeah.
My background is more pop music. Even with the Mamas and Papas, we never sang hard rock and roll. If we sang rock and roll at all, it was soft and
Yeah.
gentle,
Yeah.
you know. It was the time of
Sure,
Donovan,
yes,
and it
of
was,
course.
you know.
What about pre-Mamas and Papas, though, Cass? I mean,
I was a cabaret singer.
Yeah, but what about the Mugwumps? So one day this
Oh,
pretty
sang
album-
rock and roll.
Yeah,
One day,
sure.
strange album. Look
Bec-
how it
no,
tosses that
let me
off.
explain what I meant. It arrived through the post with all the records, and it didn't say a thing on it about who anybody was. Just this was a group called the Mugwumps. Boom. You know, and no explanation.
Well, the problem with that record was that it was actually a demonstration tape.
Ah.
And it was only released as an album after, because the group comprised Denny Doherty and myself, who
Right.
later went on to be in the Mamas and Papas, and Zoe Yanowski and John Sebastian, who later went on to be the Lovin
Lovin
Spoonful.
Spoonful, yeah.
So they put it together and threw it out, hoping that people would buy it just because of the people who were on it. But the quality was very bad because it was a demonstration tape. We had played 5 sets the night before in a club and then driven 200 miles to go make a demonstration tape, made the tape, and then turned right straight away around and came back to work our gig.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the best quality, and it wasn't really well done, and we didn't get to, double track it and do a lot of things that we would have done.
Right.
But we wrote all our own songs. That's the closest I ever got to rock and roll.
How long was that group together?
We were together nearly 10 months.
Oh, so you really did do quite a few dates in that time.
We did.
Good. Well, okay, let's move on to band 3 of the album.
Yes. This is Come Together by, nobody ever says Tina and Ike Turner, but I always call them Tyke and Teeny Turner, so it's Tyke and Teeny Turner.
You were saying that you taught Tina the words of that one, Cass.
Well, I did, but I've never heard her enunciate so clearly. I tell you, the reason I picked this particular version of Come Together is that there is no living human creature that sings dirtier than Tina Turner.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really terrific gift,
Let's get back onto the tracks of your own career that we touched on a little earlier, after Mugwumps and eventually Mamas and Papas. Now, we here read a whole lot of publicity about the group, some of which I suspect was probably fabricated. Do you think it was all true? I mean, was it the hippie group?
As much control as we had over it, it was all true.
So before Fame came along to the group, and was the intention at that time for them to get together as a musical unit?
The three of them already were together.
Yeah.
Denny and John and Michelle were singing together already, and I was working as a waitress, and this is really true. I was working as a waitress in the club and helping take care of the house because there were quite a few of us. There was like 10 of us all living in this one big house. And then when we left the Virgin Islands and I came back to New York, I couldn't get a job, and so I came to California. That was in August of 1965. And in late August of 1965, John and Michelle and Denny came out, and they were looking for work and couldn't get any. And one night we were sitting around and started singing again, and a friend of ours named Barry McGuire, who had a big hit record out at the time called Eve of Destruction, came over and said, "You guys are terrific. I know you need the bread. Why don't you come down and sing some background vocals on this album I'm doing?" So John said, "Well, look, I've got a song perhaps you might like," and he played him California Dreamin'.
Yeah.
And Barry said, "Yes, I'd like to record that song very much." And so we went down and we auditioned for Lou Adler, who flipped out and gave us eating money and cat food money, which is all we needed at the time, and an old 59 Buick, which we named Harold the Buick. And that was really the way it started and really the way it began. And after that, it was just a big skyrocket.
Yes, immediate. I mean, there was no kind of long period.
No,
of...
we released the record a month. The record was released September the 5th. California Dream was released September the 5th, and then it became a big hit and was followed by Monday, and then we had a couple of years
so
of
on and so
hits.
on. Indeed. Right. What's the next?
Well, the
record?
next is a sentimental favorite of mine. I don't think you could call it rock and roll, but Joni Mitchell has been a friend of mine for about 8 years. And when she was first writing, this is from her first album, which was called I Came to the City. And it's a very poignant story and a very lovely story. It's called Marcy, and it's one of my favorite songs.
Marcy in a coat of flowers stops inside a candy store. Reds are sweet and greens are sour. Still no letter at the door. So she'll wash her flower curtains, hang them in the wind to dry, dust her tables with his shirt and wave another day goodbye. Marcy's faucet needs a plumber. Marcy's sorrow needs a man. Red is autumn, green is summer. Greens are turning and the sand all along the ocean beaches stares up empty at the sky. Marcy buys a bag of peaches, stops a postman passing by, and summer goes, falls to the sidewalk like string, and brown paper, winter blows up from the river, there's no one to take her to the sea. Marcy dresses warm, it's snowing, takes the yellow cab uptown. Red is stop and green's for going, sees a show and rides back down. Down along the Hudson River, past the shipyards in the cold, still no letters being delivered, still the winter days unfold like magazines fading in dusty gray attics, and sailors make a dream back to summer, and hear how he tells her, wait for me. Marcy leaves and doesn't tell us where or why she moved away. Red is angry, green is jealous. That was all she had to say. Someone thought they saw her Sunday, window shopping in the rain. Someone heard she bought a one-way ticket and went west again.
Mitchell, one of the most eloquent voices in contemporary music, certainly.
It certainly always brings a tear to my eye to hear that song. I think that when you start talking about poets and you talk about Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Emily Dickinson, certainly Joni Mitchell is right up there with them. That was her first album, which has been now 6 or 7 years ago.
Right,
I mean, and her current album, Court and Spark, which, I mean, she's just a brilliant poet, and she's learned to use her voice. She doesn't have the best voice in the business, but she uses it to amplify her poetry and her music, and she does just a great job as far as I'm concerned, just one of the best.
Certainly. You have obviously a great sort of feeling for words yourself, Cass. Is this something you've always been aware of?
Well, I think I'm much more word-oriented, excuse me, than a lot of other singers I know. I think that's mainly because I don't write my own material. So when I hear a song, the first thing I listen to is the lyrics. It has to be something that I would, in order for me to sing it, it has to be something that I would feel or say if I could write it and feel it and say it.
Yes.
So I listen to the lyric first, and it becomes indelible. And I was talking about this to a musical director, Marvin Laird, who's playing for me. And he says because he's a musician, he plays the tune first, and he listens to the tune, and then the words fall in. But I find if I learn the lyrics, then the tune follows, you know, because it's all written in a pattern. But I do listen to lyrics first. Lyrics are most important to me. But, I mean, like in this record that we have coming up, I mean, it's really, it's one of your basic sillier records, except it's definite rock and roll. And I remember when this record came out in this country, I was living here. And every time I used to walk into I don't think I can mention the name of a private club, but there was a private club in this town. And every time I used to walk in, they used to put this record right on. I mean, they thought it was really me. And so I had to include it in my list.
All right, and it's...
Polk Salad Annie by Tony Joe White.
Some of y'all never been down south too much. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this so that you understand what I'm talking about. Down there we have a plant that grows out in the woods and the fields. Looks something like a turnip green. Everybody calls it poke salad. Poke salad. Used to know a girl lived down there and she'd go out in the evenings and pick her a mess of it. Carry it home and cook it for supper, 'cause that's about all they had to eat. They did all right. And down in Louisiana, where the alligators grow so mean, there lived a girl that I swear to the world made the alligators look tame. Poke salad Annie, poke salad Annie. Everybody said it was a shame, 'cause her mama was working on chain gang. A wretched, spiteful, straight-razor-toting woman. Lord, I must pick my mess up. Daddy was lazy and no count, claimed he had a bad back. All her brothers were fit for was stealing watermelons out of my truck patch. Poke salad Annie, the gators got you granny. Ooh. Everybody said it was a shame, 'cause her mama was working on a chain gang. Sock a little poke salad to me. You know I need me a mess of it. Ooh, good God. Got to have me.
Yeah, Tony Joe
Does
White.
that record embarrass you?
No,
You
not
laugh
not
like
at
that.
all, not at all. I mean,
I think it's one of the sexiest records I ever heard. I guess I should tell that little story that I was telling you when the record was
you
playing.
should, yeah.
I had just bought a new convertible, navy blue with white leather seats, very 50s. And Tony Joe was playing at the Whiskey, which is a big club in Los Angeles. And I went down to pick him up after the show, and he chews tobacco. I mean, he's really just like that record. I mean, he really is. That's no publicity, hype. That's really Tony Joe. And he was chewing tobacco, and he spit out the side and got tobacco juice all over the side of my brand new convertible. I was so angry. I was just, I thought, oh no,
Right, no, if we're coming back to rock and roll in just a moment, but I would like to digress a tiny bit. We were talking about words, importance of words and so on. I read somewhere that you learned to speak at an incredibly early age. Is this...
6 months.
Is that right? And that's true.
I'm reading it 2 years.
But what was all this about 5 languages at 4, at the age of 4?
Well, I had quite a lot of... remember now that it was during the war.
Yeah.
And there was... we had quite a lot of different people in the house. I spoke English, Italian, German, Russian, and a little Polish.
Why did you have so many people in the house?
There was a lot of people who had just managed to get out of Europe right before the start of the war. And when they couldn't find places to stay, all of the families would put up people who couldn't find places to stay. And when you're a child, you're a natural mimic. It really doesn't have anything to do with innate intelligence. It has to do with the fact that what you're exposed to. And I was exposed to a lot of different languages. And mostly I learned them through singing, because the folk songs of the different countries, we would sing Polish folk songs, we would sing Russian folk songs and German folk songs. And I learned the languages through the songs, actually.
Have you retained very much of it? Nothing.
Not a drop. I barely have enough English to order coffee.
All right. And you've never picked up, in spite of your admiration for the Beatles, you've never learned Liverpool?
No, I haven't. I wouldn't presume to try and affect an English accent. I know what happens to a lot of American entertainers who come over here and come back saying love. It just sounds dreadful.
All right.
I don't do it.
Well, let's have a spot
Jackie.
more of an individual Beatle for your last
Oh,
try.
yes. I've been going with the gentleman for 7 months, and this is our song, and it's You're 16 by Ringo Starr.
You come on like a dream, peaches and cream, lips like strawberry wine. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine, oh mine. You're all ribbons and curls, ooh what a girl, eyes that sparkle and shine. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine, oh mine, mine, mine. You're my baby, you're my pet. We fell in love on the night we met. You touched my hand, my heart went pump. Ooh, when we kissed, I could not stop. You walked out of my dreams, into my arms. Now you're my angel divine. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine. You're my baby, you're my fan. We fell in love on the night we met. You touched my hand, my heart went pump. Ooh, when we kissed, I could not stop. You walked out of my dreams and into my car. Now you're my angel divine. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine. You're 16, so beautiful, and you're mine. Oh, mine.
Now, Ringo was going to love you for that, Cass, because it's his favourite record, Ringo, of his own,
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
So that's
it's a
really
smashing
something.
record.
And
It's just terrific. I love when he says he walked out of my dreams and into my car.
And that winds up side 1 of Cass Elliott's album. Hope you're all going to stay tuned for side 2. And it's my top 12, side 2 of the album being chosen by Cass Elliott. I think we should get into that quickly, Cass. At the end, you were upset that I said your album,
I wish it were my album. I mean, if I'd had those previous 6 songs that we just heard on my album, I'd be a big star. The next record that I've chosen is one by the Hollies. This record, I think, is one of the last ones they did when Graham Nash was still in the group and still had a major influence on the group. And it has one of the best arrangements of any rock and roll record ever, and it's the Hollies and King Midas in reverse.
Be me. Oh, I can assure you that I'm not the guy to run with, 'cause I'll pull you off the line. I'll break you and destroy you, given time. He's King Midas, feather curve. It's plain to see it's hopeless, going on the way we are. So even though I lose you, you'd be better off by far. He's not the man to hold your trust. Everything he touches turns to dust in his hand. Nothing he can do is right. He even likes to sleep at night, but he can't. I wish someone would find me and help me gain control before I lose my reason and my soul. He's King Midas with a curse. He's King Midas in reverse. He's King Midas with a curse.
Well, I still think that's a magnificent record.
Great record. You were just telling me, while I was playing that it wasn't a big hit.
Anything
here.
but. It was a minor.
It was not a hit in the States either, but it was such a great record. And I remember I had this terrific house in Beverly Hills with a waterfall that ran through it with real fish. I mean, it was so Hollywood. Natalie Wood had lived there before me, and it was just totally Hollywood. And I had all of the Hollies living at my house, sleeping on the floor because they didn't have any money because they hadn't had any hits. And we had a great time. That was a period of time that Graham and I used to dress alike.
Yeah.
We were wearing a lot of black pants and long clerical jackets and high-topped ebony canes with silver handles and things like that.
And now he has the house with the stream running through it and the fish.
That's right, the fish in the sink.
Right. Now, I think it was on your last visit to this country, Cass, or maybe a couple of years ago, you were pretty heavily involved in the political scene, weren't you?
Well, not too much, but it was during the time of the American presidential campaign at that point. And so we organized an Americans Abroad for McGovern, who was our candidate.
But so back home, you were really working at this. I mean...
Oh, yeah, I stopped my career for 10 months. I didn't work at all. I just traveled all around the country speaking for McGovern and helping Warren Beatty organize the concerts that we did. We had some great concerts. We had Barbra Streisand. We put Simon and Garfunkel got back together for the concerts. Peter, Paul, and Mary got back together and did a concert for us. We raised quite a bit of money, almost $1 million.
Tremendous. Okay, what are we going to raise musically now on your album?
Well, I think one of the best groups to come out of the States in a very long time is a group called Sly and the Family Stone. When you talk about rock and roll, you cannot very well talk about rock and roll and not talk about Sly and the Family Stone because they're a great band. Sly is a great showman and a terrific songwriter. And this is one of my favorite songs of his because I think people have a tendency to downgrade themselves. They look up at other people without realizing, how important everybody is. And this song really expresses it. It's called Everybody is a Star, and everybody really is. It's Sly and the Family Stone.
Sly and the Family Stone. He really got severely put down by a lot of British rock journalists.
When was he here?
When would it be? It was earlier this year, I think, maybe. Yeah, it was. Maybe the end of last year.
I can't understand that. He did have quite a bit of problem in the States about he was not showing up at concerts and things like that. He seems to have gotten himself straightened out. He got married at Madison Square Garden in front of 25,000 people. I told him when he got divorced, he'd have to get divorced at the Coliseum. I mean, if you're going to get married in such an enormous
where
place.
do you go? Right.
I really can't understand that. When he wants to make music, I mean, I went to a concert of his. There were 14,000 people there. We had to sit in the back on the street, practically. And he did I Want to Take You Higher as his last song, as his encore, and he did it for an hour and a half.
Wow.
And no one left. No one.
That's amazing.
And he has an enormous magnetism and power over the audience. He also wears a lot of diamonds.
Right, let's have some more music.
Well, this is my favorite song at the moment.
Yeah?
So I couldn't very well have, my top 12 without having, my
Your
very favorite song.
Sure.
This is sung by an American group called the Stylistics, and I think I really relate to it because in the past 6 or 7 months in my life, since I've been back on the road doing cabaret and I'm going to record again, and I have a very nice friend, I do feel the way the song is. The song is called You Made Me Feel Brand New.
love, to tell you how I feel, my love. Mere words could not explain. Precious love, you held my life within your hands, created everything I am, taught me how to live again. Only you care when I needed a friend, believed in me through thick and thin. This song is for you, filled with gratitude and love. God bless you. You made me feel brand new. For God bless me with you. You made me feel brand new. I sing this song for you.
Now that's a beautiful record. Stylistics, You Made Me Feel Brand New. Big hit in the States.
Enormous,
Podcast, yeah,
enormous hit.
Right.
And like we were just saying, this is, like You're 16 is kind of a puppy love type song. This is a mature love song. This is a real, the lyrics to this song really get me. And as we mentioned before, I really am lyrically oriented. You know,
Yes,
I
indeed.
listen to the lyrics first. And these lyrics, I'm going to record this song myself on my next album. And I seldom cover a record. I've only covered one other record in my life, and it was by Harmony Grass. It was here in this country.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I didn't even know it until after I had recorded it, and it was in the can. Somebody said, "Did you know that a group in England had already done that song?" And I said, "No," because I'm appalled at groups that cover other people's records. I think when somebody comes out with a record that's their product and their gift, and that nobody should cover it. And I was really, you know, that's just, I mean, that's my
Sure.
personal opinion.
Well, you've been covered yourself, haven't you? I mean,
Oh, well, that's their problem.
It's happened. I suppose that's true.
They don't have to deal with my ethics. I only have to.
Right. We talked next to not at all about your time with the Mamas and Papas. The only thing I wanted to touch on, Cass, was after the group broke up for whatever reason, there was a very short...
I quit. There's
You
no
quit, but then
mystery
there was
as
a
to
short period you all went back together again.
Well, that was about 2.5 or 3 years after the group had actually broken up. And John came to me and he said, I have enough songs for an album.
Yeah.
And we'd like to do an album again. And so I stopped doing what I was doing, and we went into the studio for 6 months and came out with a dreadful album. I thought that the songs were great. I didn't like the mix of the album. I didn't like the instrumentation. And, of course, as was John's wont, he had total control over everything that was done, and nobody else could say anything. And I determined at that point that I would never... I mean, they're talking now because next year will be the 10th anniversary of the Mamas and Papas. And they're talking now about getting back together to do an album, and I really could care less about it, because to go into a studio and work as hard as you have to work to come out with a good album and put your heart and soul into it and disrupt your life and stop seeing your children and your loved ones, to be able to go in and do an album and then hear something that doesn't even represent what you gave, it's just a waste of time to me. I'd sooner sit home and be unemployed, frankly.
Yeah, yeah. Do the other three work together as a unit?
Oh, no. Michelle's an actress. She's got a film playing in town, Dillinger, playing here in London.
Yeah.
Denny's just done an album that Michelle and I went down and sang background voices on. John, we don't see too much of. He lives in New York, and I don't go to New York much because I don't have much business there. So, and the three of us, Denny and Michelle and I, all live in Southern California, so we see quite a bit of...
But you're still good friends, which is nice. Okay, let's have track number 10.
Well, I read somewhere once where the Beatles were asked who they thought the best male rock and roll singer was, and they said Little Richard. And I will put up for nomination Mr. Paul McCartney, because I think that he's one of the great rock and roll singers of all time, and maybe I'm amazed. It's probably nobody can sing it but him. I've tried it 100 times myself. I can't sing it. Nobody can sing it but Paul, and so let's hear it.
If you have that sort of song in your repertoire, I wonder how often you can do the act.
Oh, once a year.
Gotta be.
I guarantee you that he didn't sing it all night. I mean, I don't know, because I've only been to 1 or 2 Beatles recording sessions, but that song is maybe I'm amazed that he can actually sing it.
At all.
Is really what it is.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he's a great singer. He's just a great singer and songwriter, of course, which goes without saying, because I mean he'd certainly well established himself in that category long before
any of this. Yeah. Now you've already told us you're back on the road, back recording, and etc. etc. You have from time to time expressed an ambition to do lots of other things. I mean, be a comedian, be an actress, all of which you've done. But what stage is your career at now, Cass?
Well, at the moment, I'm waiting to get word on a film that I might be doing. I'd like to do that. I've been in the business now for 15 years. It'll be 15 years this coming September. So I've done quite a lot of things. And in order to keep it interesting for me, I can't be exclusively a recording artist or a cabaret performer or a television artist. I have my own television series that's been offered to me in the States, which I probably will do next year, not this year, but next year, because it will enable me to stay home with my daughter. As long as I can keep doing diversified things, I'll keep interested in my career.
Yes.
Because I need the challenge of doing new things. It's important to me.
What sort of film are you interested in doing? I mean, no, without being
Well, I
too
don't want to
specific.
play the girl with a glandular problem in the corner, you know? I'm tired of all those medical shows, and I really don't want to do any more of those. So I'm really waiting for... I've turned down quite a lot of films already. I'm waiting for a part of a person. And hopefully this one that's come up right now, which I don't want to talk about because it's a bit like buying clothes for the baby before it's born, you know.
Yeah,
I'm a little superstitious about it.
Yeah.
this one is a part of a real person, and I'm looking forward to. I'll know before I actually leave England after I finish this tour at the end of September, when whether I've got it or not.
Oh, well, then I guess we shall all know, because we're bound to read it somewhere. Okay, what's your next piece?
Well, my next one is a plea. Gilbert O'Sullivan, if you're listening to me, if you are within the sound of my voice, please call me at RCA or someplace. I want to meet you. I think you're greatly talented and have a super sense of humor. And this is a great record. I used to go with a guy named Jimmy Gordon who wrote Layla and played with Eric Clapton for a long time. And he turned me on to this record because I had only heard Alone Again Naturally, which I had done on a Julie Andrews television show and enjoyed very much, but I had never heard this record. And this record's called Get Down.
Gilbert O'Sullivan, Get Down. I'm afraid he wouldn't have heard your heartfelt plea.
Oh, where is he?
Because I don't think he's in England. He's one of the...
Can't you get him
Well,
here?
you can't afford to come back, you see. That's the trouble. We're
Where
losing.
is he?
We're losing all our brightest talents.
Are you telling me he's in America?
Either there or... I heard he was in Spain or Gibraltar or somewhere, but he's probably got to go and live in the States. You can call him up
Well,
later.
I'll wait.
You wait, yeah. Maybe you'll write you a song.
I don't care if he comes over and sings it. I don't care if he writes it or not. I think he's super. I love his sweater.
They are cute, yes, fine, right. Now, we've covered your own career. When you get back to the States in September, Cass, is it going to be, assuming that the film happens, is it going to be pretty immediate? Or
Yes, it's middle of October.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't do the film, then I'm going to go into the studio right away and do an album.
You'll be doing that anyway, I hope, will you?
Oh, yes. Actually, before this tour in England came up, I planned to do the album this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just really didn't get a chance to do it, so I've sort of pushed it off for a couple of months, come to do the tour, and then I'll go back and do the album.
Have you found the material for it?
I've got about 4 songs that I like quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Do you always choose on your own?
Yes. I must. I have to sing it, don't I?
Certainly. Do you? How involved are you in production of your records?
Well, I do a lot of the mixing. You know, I have very good ears for that. Not as good ears as this gentleman we're going to play next for our last song. This man, I think, is the top producer, songwriter, musician in the country. If you had to say who is the finest American musician, I would have to say Stevie Wonder.
And which of his are you going to choose to close?
Well, when I first heard this one, I became addicted. I mean, I had to play the album. It's from an album called Inner Visions, Living for the City, Stevie Wonder.
by Mississippi, surrounded by four walls that ain't so pretty. His parents give him love and affection to keep him strong, moving in the right direction, living just enough for the city. His father works some days for 14 hours, and you can bet he barely makes $1. His mother goes to scrub the floors for many, and you best believe she hardly gets a penny, living just enough for the city. His sister's black, but she is shown up pretty. Her skirt is short, but Lord, her legs are sturdy. To walk to school, she's got to get up early. Her clothes are old, but never are they dirty. Living just enough for the city. Her brother's smart, he's got more sense than many. His patience long, but soon